I can stand on. That's what you call a bottom bitch to me. Bitch, I can stand on you. You my motherfucking foundation.
Enter the rabbit hole of Edily Graham. See, everyone has a story, some better than others, some more or less traumatic than the young woman or man within our social circle, our classrooms, our communities. My point is, no matter the circumstances that got you here within this very moment, we all have a story. So many of us have grown up around or been surrounded by people who were supposed to protect us, only to discover we've fallen victim to the protector turned predator. So many of us have that story. You know that story. The story of our innocence being stripped away and the backlash of holding on to the pain, guilt, and shame that coincides with it. The shame that we've had to hide and bury deep beneath the surface of our souls. This novel series is for you, for every victim, survivor, obstacle overcomer, leap of faith taker, and especially for the generational curse breaker. But this is everybody's story from everybody's perspective. The victim, the victimizer, the innocent child stuck in the middle, the predator. Yes, even the predator has a story. You don't think these people wake up one day and say to themselves, you know what? Today, I'm going to be an ain't shit-ass person, do you? Full novel and video disclosure. This novel series involves acts of SA, rape, different types of abuse, addictions, and drug use. It may bring to the surface childhood and current traumas that need to be addressed. If you feel unprepared for this, please seek the help you need. We'll be here when you're ready. However, if you're prepared to embark on a journey of self-discovery, where you can find the strength to persevere and believe in the light within you, this series is for you. All characters you see, including their voices, have been AI generated. This means that each character is a unique creation with their own distinct personality and voice, adding a new layer of depth to the storytelling. I want to give readers something different when they read a novel. The Weight of Grahams is an immersive journey that will take you deep into the realms of the character's reality. What sets this novel series apart is the AI-generated characters, each with their own unique voice and personality. You will be able to see the characters, understand the raw emotion behind their voices, feel the highs and lows, and discover the root of who they really are. On this channel, we're flipping the script on storytelling. Instead of a traditional reading, you're invited to journey through Edily Graham's rabbit hole in my gripping novel series, The Weight of Grahams. Now let's immerse ourselves down Edily's rabbit hole, and trust me, the shit gets deep.
Now, Issa, don't forget to soften up when you enter the bridge.
Look, I've got this, Edily. If anything, you're going to jinx me by having me make a complete ass out of myself.
For that exact reason, I was reminding my little sister to soften up at the bridge so she wouldn't make a fool of herself. She tends to go overboard with things, especially when she has everyone's undivided attention. Nodding my head in response, she continued to babble.
Please, Edily, just spare me at least once in my life. This isn't a sold-out show at Madison Square Garden. It's just a wedding reception. It's funny how I couldn't perform at the actual wedding because my oblivious sister found a way to book John B. just in the nick of time. Imagine how that panned out for me.
Before allowing this conversation to get out of hand because this wasn't the time or place, I cut her off. Issa, please cut it out. Are you still mad over that mess? As I've tried to explain to you before, Faith asked me at the last minute to get someone to sing at her wedding. You and John B. were the only people available in my contacts, and who do you think she chose? Looking at me with the rashest expression on her face, she replies,
Screw you, Edily.
Waving Issa off as usual, I reminded her again to soften up at the bridge, although I knew it would piss her off even more. I couldn't help but stand there and wonder in utter disappointment about how completely sour and immature she was acting. Today is supposed to be my favorite cousin's happiest day, and my sister, who Faith adores, is acting like a complete spoiled brat. Everything around me was perfect for the bride. The satin ivory seat covers and dipped lilac roses in crystal vases as centerpieces were the perfect combination. The room's lights were dim, causing the oversized chandeliers to glow in a way so elegant that it left me astonished.
Edily, darling, could you hold Izzy while I get some pictures of your sister up there singing?
Sure, Mama. Now, like always at every family function, I'm stuck with the baby. It seems like that's how these family functions go down. Asa asks Mama to hold little Isaiah while she goes to the restroom, say hi to a relative, make a plate, or hell, whatever excuse she can come up with to drop him with Mama. Ironically, Mama always finds her way to me, and then I'm stuck with my nephew for hours, sometimes days at a time. Today, for some odd reason, I don't mind his company. He's the cutest and sweetest 2-year-old I've ever seen, especially in his little black and white tuxedo and lilac bow tie. I believe I'm just emotional and sappy because of the type of day and moment it is. Being here at my cousin's wedding genuinely makes me question my future. I'm 32 years old and still very much single. I have a decent job with a highly important sounding title, and although my income is far from where I would want it, in my eyes, I'm the shit. When I look at myself in the mirror, I see internal and external natural beauty. I have a 5'4" frame, toasted almond skin, a size handful of perky breasts, and enough behind to cuff, grab, and enjoy. Seemingly hypnotic, ebony eyes, defined lips, long dark brown naturally wavy hair that, along with my nails, are always maintained. I have a home. It's small, but mine. A luxury car, no kids, and an aesthetic so unique you would think I would have men falling at my feet, but that's far from the case. I can't find a good man, even if it means saving my life. My family and friends believe I've set my standards for men way too high. What do they know? After the way I'd been treated, I felt left with no choice but to demand a man with more than just the basics going for himself. The only person in my world who has had, or should I say is having, a successful relationship is Faith, and she's just now making it to the altar with twin girls before her marriage at age 32. Issa is the main character in my world, pushing me to lower my standards. She believes in her juvenile mind that men fall at her feet and give her what she wants because she has a lot of what it takes to keep them on a leash. She would take a John with no job, home, or real financial stability but still hustles in the streets and rides in $80,000 cars to look good. Then there's Tom, who has a 6-figure income but has no emotional attachment to her life and buys her what she wants. I love my little sister. She has so much potential but goes nowhere with it. Where she does go usually turns out to be a dead-end street with little to no way out. Issa is beautiful, drop-dead gorgeous. She's so striking it's almost frightening. She too has toasted almond skin and ebony eyes. However, the definition of her facial structure makes her stand out. Her lips are plump and pouty, if that helps paint a picture. Along with having extremely high cheekbones, she also has the cutest and deepest dimples ever. She was blessed to have more French than Indian ancestry in our genes, so her hair is naturally thick and wavy. When it's straightened, her beauty becomes flawless. She's always been a petite framed woman, but the Stairmaster has been her best friend since she had Izzy. Asa is built like a stallion, social media model type minus the filters. However, my little sister uses her beauty like poison, believing everything is supposed to be handed to her on a platinum platter. What's most difficult for me to understand is how and why she became so boisterous. We watched our mother go through so many years, different versions and levels of abuse to survive and give us the life we have today. My childhood scarred me to the fullest, so I don't see how Issa pulls some of the stunts that she does. I guess she's been affected by the trauma differently. Looking back, things were traumatic growing up. It seems as if life is finally starting to get better for us as a family of women trying to endure. Mama's career as an LPN is beginning to take off, keeping her out all day and night. This gives her little time to focus on Issa and her wild lifestyle, which Issa takes full advantage of. My sister is the true definition of a go-getter. She's still in school at Chicago State and doing well the last time I checked, yet she was still out there socially. She's had 3 abortions and a 2-year-old by age 28, but no baby's daddy or male role model in either situation. She aspires to become the next Diana Ross or someone of that stature but lacks the class. Case in point, she's on stage at a wedding reception, allegedly singing a love ballad in front of our entire family. She's singing in the most seductive tone and grinding like she is producing a baby-making record and wants everyone in the audience to make a baby too. She sounds and looks good on stage, but her lyrics are so sexually forward and vulgar that it's hideous. She should have sung this self-written song at the bachelorette party. Isa is a talented writer but refuses to allow me to find her a writer to help express her vulgarity in a classier manner. Better yet, find a production team to help take her to where I know she can go, which is the top. She assumes because I work for a major record label, it's my job to put her on, but she makes it too complicated. No one in the industry wants an artist who won't listen or doesn't know how to take constructive criticism. Isa doesn't take too kindly to advice, good or bad. I swear we fight like cats and dogs.
Child, what you daydreaming about?
His country accent and tone startled me for a second. I nearly felt numb to the sound of his familiar yet distant voice. Realizing it was my sorry excuse for a father, I immediately put my guard up and gave a soft nod to reply, while still bouncing Izzy on my hip. Oh, nothing much. Just listening to baby sis do her thing up there on that stage. How are you, Smitty?
Yeah, she sounds mighty nice, but something just ain't there. I know she best stay her behind in college, 'cause not all dreams come true.
Here he goes, being the old callous bastard of a man he's always been. He had some nerves when saying some of the things he said. With him being a pimp, my mother being his main whore, along with the things we've endured in the past, he has no right to judge or poke fun at Isa's dream. I went from being happy and somewhat annoyed at my sister to ready to blow a gasket just at the sight of his face and attempt at a conversation. My memories of my father are all bad. In my eyes, he was just a man who had my mother working the streets all hours of the night. My sister and I stayed in a cold apartment, alone, hungry, and waiting for the so-called pizza man to ring our bell. Pizza that never came. Ever. Nodding in agreement about Isa staying in school, I tried shifting positions, turning my back toward him, hoping he would get the hint and go away. Of course, he doesn't. He instead decides to ask in the most broken version of English possible.
So, how's that music career going? Is you rolling around in dem big old dollars yet, girl?
It's going, you know what they say, another day, another dollar, I guess. I'm not too satisfied with where I am in my career, so I wasn't open to conversation about it, especially with him. I was hoping that, given the tone and nature of my response, my father would understand. However, I'm not surprised that he continues.
Another day, another dollar my ass. I seen that new ride you done pulled up here in Child. Who you think you fooling?
Little to his knowledge, my car is the same age as his grandson, who of course he doesn't even know. Smitty, the car is over 2 years old, along with your grandson right here, who you seem to be totally oblivious to.
Why? What? Is that yo, baby Edily?
I was beyond heated by now. Was he being serious or just completely ignorant of what was going on with his daughters? It was funny at first how clueless he was, but this was sad. I chuckled disapprovingly and in as snotty a tone as I could muster. No, genius, this is Isa's baby Isaiah, and no, he is not a Graham. You need to ask yourself where the hell you've been all this time. This conversation is sad and should be embarrassing on your part. I could see Isaiah's lack of the family's name, along with my tone and choice of words, had struck a nerve. Graham had been our father's last name, so Isa and I felt as though our children didn't deserve the memories. Therefore, Smitty Joe Graham didn't deserve the honor. We both agreed, with our mother's approval, to name our children with the last name of Ross, Mama's maiden name.
He ain't no Graham? What the hell you mean he ain't a Graham? If that's Isa's baby boy, then he damn near better be the only motherfucker in here named Graham. Ha! Well, look at what I got here. My oldest daughter done got a little money, a halfway decent job, and bought herself a slick-ass mouth, while my youngest got a 2-year-old boy without my last name, but got her ass on stage hoeing at a fucking family wedding. Yeah, Edily. Where the hell have I been?
I was nearly mortified by his words, and if it weren't for me trying to balance Izzy on my hip and my drink in my free hand, I might have fallen over. I can't stand Smitty and have zero respect for him. I couldn't help but lash back. Well, we did have a pimp for a daddy, so what did you expect to get? Charlie's fucking Angels?
Well, you got a hoe for a mother, too. A wise one at that, so you best readjust that smart-ass mouth before I show out at this here trumped-up-ass wedding.
I could feel myself turning visibly red by now, flustered to a point where I knew Smitty could also see. Never backing down, he continues rambling.
Now, hand me my grandson so you can go fix that heap of foundation on your face.
With a look of total confusion, I almost yelled. Excuse me, I don't wear makeup.
Well, you should. I can see all that pitiful anger right behind what you think is beauty.
By then, I was done. My feelings were hurt. I felt insulted and injured like I was 14 all over again. Left with nothing more to say, I did exactly what he requested. I handed Izzy off, despite my better judgment, and made a beeline toward the restrooms. I hit the door and immediately faced over the sink, drowning in crocodile tears. I can't believe I've allowed myself to get so worked up by my so-called father. However, unlike him, I was far more sensitive, emotional, and delicate like my mother, Joanne Ray Graham. Mama is a petite, Creole cultured woman from the French quarters of New Orleans, Louisiana. Her skin and features are almost those of a sun-tanned Arabic woman. Her hair was once long, jet black, and straight. However, she's now rocking an easy-maintenance bob cut. Her eyes are big, round, and sparkling. She has a naturally giving and loyal attitude, and despite the years of drug abuse and prostitution, Mama is exquisite. I admire my mother's inner beauty and strength because our past was saddening. I recall hearing Mama getting her ass whipped by my daddy in the middle of the night. Mainly because she didn't want to go out on the track and make money. I can still hear him telling my mom, "Real bitches didn't cry, yet the more she cried, the more he would beat her." I cried for her some nights because I knew she was holding back her tears. I don't understand or see how she put up with his drug-addicted abuse for so long. It wasn't until Smitty Trigger Finger Joe put a pistol in my mother's mouth. He told her he would kill her, us, and himself if she didn't go out there and make enough money for his fix when she finally got the courage to leave. I recall Mama begging him to let her up so she could make the money, promising to return in a couple of hours. Mama approached Isa and me, where we had been sitting and shaking in fear in the corner of our tiny bedroom. Isa was just about 10 at the time. I would remember her exact words to this very moment.
"Edily, you keep an eye out one last time, and I promise I will be back in 2 hours, and in about 3, this will all be over for good. Edily, Isa, I promise. This is us no more."
I swear, Isa and I watched that clock and prayed it would finally be over. I remember us talking about the things we would finally get to enjoy once we were away from him. Warm meals, filled bellies, Mama smiling again, and no more beatings for either of us. We sat, prayed, and waited until Mama seemed to walk in the door on cue precisely 2 hours later. Smitty jumped up, snatched the money out of Mama's hand, and was out that door so fast, in the dead of winter had forgotten his jacket. Within that instant, Mama locked the door behind him and quietly told Asa and me to pack a bag of what was important to us while she began to do the same. We were told not to worry about anything that we couldn't fit. Mama promised it would all be replaced. While we packed, Mama described how she needed us to handle ourselves accordingly once he returned. We were to play the role. Mama explained that we were getting ready to leave and would never come back. However, in order for us to leave and for this to work, we had to move fast, be smart, pay attention, and play along. Isa and I were both ready for this nightmare to end, so we paid close attention to Mama's game plan and followed instructions. Mama directed us to put on our warmest and heaviest pajamas and put our bags in the never-used front closet. Isa and I were to go into our bedroom as if we were in bed for the night. We weren't allowed to get up, not even to pee, until she came to get us. I remember cuddling up in the bed next to Isa and singing my own song, something to the tune of "We're Getting Out." And it's finally over, yes. We're getting out, and it's finally over. I had a passion for writing music for as long as I could remember, and tonight was no exception. Isa sang along and added her lyrics while we patiently yet nervously waited for this nightmare to finally end. I can recall repeatedly singing the song's lyrics until we heard Smitty come back in. We could hear him stumble through the house, tripping and knocking things over in his path. We listened while Mama let Daddy get high and make love to her for one last time. I remember feeling most excited about those parts of our nights finally about to be over. The level of sexual abuse was immoral. There were so many countless nights we've had to sit and listen to our parents have sex. Our mother fulfilled Smitty's drug-induced fantasies with orgies, weird games of sorts, and sexual noises that went on until the early morning hours. This time, however, Mama kept her promise by coming into the room to get us. We followed Mama to her bedroom, waiting anxiously by the door. We watched as she first went to the nightstand on her side of the bed. Opening the tiny cabinet door, she grabbed a small purple bag, filling it with what seemed like tons of money and jewelry. Next, she put on a hoodie and signaled for us to head toward the front door.
We grabbed our bags out of the closet. Reminding us to keep quiet, she made us hold our shoes until we were completely out of the apartment building we lived in. We were in a cab on our way to the train station, heading to Chicago. We never went back to Louisiana and hadn't seen Smitty again for over 10 years. Chicago had become home, and the three of us were, as a final point, our own team. My emotions were rapidly running, and my head was spinning at least what seemed to be 90 miles per hour. I shuffled through my knockoff Prada clutch for some painkillers, found some Excedrin, and popped a couple. I fingered through my hair a bit, put on some lip gloss, and attempted to pull myself together while fighting away the tears. I finally decided to return to the reception. Despite this headache, I was long overdue for another drink. Thinking I was letting go of what transpired between Smitty and me, I was stopped by a commotion in the banquet room lobby. I listened for familiar voices and noticed Isa's screeching voice over everyone. It appeared she was telling Smitty to put Isaiah down, and Smitty, being Smitty, was refusing. Isa is going off on Smitty, telling him how much of a father or grandfather he hasn't been, while Mama is playing backup, chiming in whenever Isa would let her. On the other hand, Smitty was taking all the verbal knives and daggers that were being thrown at him left and right by the duo. Still refusing to put Izzy down, he shouts with his usual callous response to an altercation with our mother or me. This time, however, Isa was the one on the insulted end.
Oh, shut up, bitch. I made you, and this here I'm holding is me. That's how y'all do me. I fly all the way up here to play family man at this snobby shit-ass wedding, trying to make right while y'all pretending and acting like rich folk, looking down on me and such. This how y'all do me. Me. I made you. Bitches. Oh, you bitches.
Unable to take any more, I wiped the last of my falling tears and stormed into the lobby area with the drama. Before I could get a word in, Mama was speaking her piece.
Yeah, you made us and did what with it, Joe? Turned us all into some evil, selfless, angry bitches, or better yet, some gold-digging ass whores that left your tired ass hanging? Not again, Joe. I refuse to let your black ass come in here and ruin another memorable moment in my family's life. Not today, Joe. Your black ass will not have the glory. Not today.
Mama had spoken with so much venom and passion you would have thought she was spitting poison behind her words. However, words were nothing but a mere challenge to Smitty. Never being able to just let things go when he knows he's wrong, Smitty shoots back, almost dropping Izzy.
Fuck you mean ruining another moment? Bitch, you chose to make me a moment in your world, ho, not me.
Mama was snickering. My father had become a joke.
Oh, now wait a minute, Joe. I thought you chose me. Why? Isn't that how pimping in the South goes, honey? Sounds like you are contradicting yourself now.
We all laughed at Mama's humor, everyone except Smitty. Uncle Ross interrupted the humiliation, noticing Smitty found nothing amusing about this situation.
Hey Joe, let's break this mess up. I need you to leave. This is supposed to be the happiest day of my daughter's life, and my sister was right. You are ruining the moment.
Back in his pimping, callous, country accent, Smitty continued to rant about his place in this family and who he's made and shaped. He knew how to create tension and fired back, leaving us all botched. Smitty decided to mention that Faith was lucky she was his niece and that she should be happy he came to the wedding. He implied Faith knew the situation could have been a lot worse. His cowardly demand that Faith tell us how many times she'd been to New Orleans within the past 2 years perplexed us all. The fear in Faith's eyes read a story waiting to be told. I didn't know or understand what Smitty's words meant, but at this point, I, in good conscience, didn't care to find out. Just like everyone else, I wanted Smitty to be gone. I also knew my Uncle Ross. The fact he didn't dwell on what Smitty had just said shuddered me even more. Uncle Ross calmly continued to ask him to leave before he got removed.
Smitty, I'm going to tell you one last time to leave before it's a hell of a lot more than just your trigger finger missing.
Challenging Uncle Ross would be a death sentence for any fool. However, Smitty was a different type of fool. Ruthlessness and insensitivity were understatements for my father. I could tell Smitty was up for more than a challenge at the rate he was going. Uncle Ross is my mother's only brother, yet I have about 7 uncles. That's kept Smitty Joe and all other drama and mishaps as far away from Mama Isa and me as humanly possible. Uncle Ross and his guys ran all of the south side of Chicago. They labeled Faith a street princess and, of course, Ross street king. My Uncle Ross, favorite cousin Faith, and Aunt Ada were pure street royalty. No one messed with them or their family. It took about 6 years of hell before Ross accepted Faith's dating her now husband, Bryce. He, too, was a street lord who had been working for Uncle Ross for about 8 of those 6 years. Bryce was even forced to change his last name to Ross instead of Faith changing hers, which I'm sure he didn't mind. This further proved Uncle Ross played no games.
Fuck you, young blood. I ain't gotta go nowhere. Just 'cause my trigger finger don't work don't mean this here pistol won't.
That said, Smitty did what he normally does when he is on the losing end of a dispute. Draw his pistol. We all moved back while the room fell to silence. I couldn't believe some of the stunts this man would pull in this day and age. Who draws a gun at a wedding reception and you're not the jealous ex-lover? Mama spoke out, unmoved by the weapon.
So, you going to kill my brother at his daughter's wedding? Why? Because you're not wanted, Joe? Anyway, I thought you stopped using guns ever since you shot your trigger finger off. What type of nonsense you got dancing around in your head now, Joe? Are you trying to blow off your entire hand nowadays?
We laughed uneasily at Mama's continued humor. Smitty changed positions, now pointing the gun toward Mama.
Look here, bitch. Don't act like you ain't ever had no pistol put to face.
Yep, and that same coward that pulled that gun on me, putting the barrel in my throat, is the same coward still standing here. Who, by the way, still ain't got the heart to pull the trigger. Your gun didn't scare me then, and it doesn't scare me now. You're all talk and no aim. I am free from you, Joe, and so are my daughters. We have been for a long time. Ironically, you haven't learned that the more you try to hurt me, the more you hurt. The more you resent, the more you weep in pity. Now I'm asking you for my niece, my brother, and my sister-in-law for you to leave. This is not your family, Joe. We are not your family.
Seeing the blood boil over in Smitty's head, knowing his next move was to shoot, I yelled out and reminded him that pimping was dead in the South. Ruling with an iron fist doesn't work around these parts. I knew telling him that would take his focus from Mama. Pimping in the South was a sensitive subject to Smitty as he saw it as a form of art and employment. Smitty turned that long-barreled pistol toward me, and before I knew it, 3 shots were fired. Instincts kicked in to hit the ground. I couldn't believe what was happening. I lay there for a moment, nearly stuck, trying to gather a thought. My mind continued to draw a blank. This was the definition of shock. Looking and feeling over myself, realizing I hadn't been harmed, my mind raced as I thought about who was standing next to me when Smitty fired. Asa and Izzy. No longer caring about my safety, I jumped up to check on my nephew and little sister. My world would end right now if something had happened to them, especially on the count of Smitty's doing. Once grounded and out of panic mode, I noticed Smitty Joe lying in a growing pool of blood. Mama is standing there with a gun, shaking uncontrollably. My steps toward her were slowed out of misperception on the last 30 seconds of my life. I wasn't sure what had just happened. I knew everyone I loved and cared about was unharmed, and Smitty Trigger Finger Joe Graham was the one down. Oh my God, Mama, you all right? Say something to me? Mama was shaking and sweating. The still yet satisfying look in her eyes made me even more uneasy at this point.
Joanne, give me the gun.
This moment seems so surreal. My mother had just shot and killed my father while he was trying to shoot me. Mama began to laugh and shout while still aiming the gun at Smitty in what sounded like a native chant.
No! Fuck you! Fuck you, Smitty Joe! May you burn, 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 burn in hell! Let the gates of fire open up and receive you! Burn, Smitty Joe Graham! Burn!
Mama laughed while breaking into tears. I hadn't heard Mama speak like that in years. I believe we were all mixed up about Mama's tears. The uncanny added laughter is what I think did it. Uncle Ross took the gun from Mama as she broke from her trance and went to embrace both Isa and me in her arms. She hugged us both, insisting we were free for good and no longer had the burden of Joe in our lives.
I may go to jail, but at least my girls can live in peace now.
Mama, you're not going to jail. You can simply tell the officers the truth. He tried to shoot me first, and you were defending my life. Mama went into apologizing for the memories, moments, and the time she lost with the two of us.
Oh, my beautiful girls, despite the past, you all have grown so much and are so mature. I'm so proud and sorry at the same time.
Mama was feeling guilt, anger, and joy all at once. Her mind was tired. I nodded at Isa. She smiled back with relief, but I could see the hurt in her eyes. This wouldn't have happened if I hadn't handed Izzy over to Smitty. It was my fault our father was dead. Even though I felt partial blame, I needed to break this moment before Mama mentally broke down right before us. Mama, it's okay. You did what was right for your family and what was right for the situation at the time. We can't dwell on the past right now, Mama. Right now, we need to figure this mess out before the police arrive. Both Mama and Isa agreed. Mama complimented me on my maturity and began to call the police while Uncle Ross went to cover Smitty's body with a tablecloth. After calming Mama for some time, I checked in to see how Faith was holding up after all the madness. When I entered the dressing room, surprisingly, I found Faith dancing and singing in the mirror, barely fixing her hair and makeup. I spoke up, trying not to frighten her. Hey cuz, sorry my pops and our family drama ruined your wedding. Still giddy, doing her own little dance, Faith replied.
Ruined my wedding? Girl, y'all made it epic, more of a blast than what it already was.
I looked at her with confusion.
I'm saying, Edily, check this out from my point of view. In one day, I've gotten the royalty treatment, gotten extra pretty and glamorous in this wedding dress. I took pictures that were all about me and enjoyed my current family while joining another. I witnessed a murder and got married to the father of my children, which is, by the way, a good man who is willing to commit to me forever. I got 2 weeks of paid vacation from work and I leave for Paris in less than 8 hours. What more could a girl ask for? Edily, I'm in total bliss. You might as well call me Princess Faith because I'm royalty today, honey.
I was so pleased to see Faith in her frame of mind. I thought I would come in here, have to wipe some tears, and do some serious damage control. Since no one else seemed to be worried about Smitty, not my mother, his killer, not even the bride, why should I? Besides, I've never felt a real connection to Smitty anyhow. Faith and I chatted about the good days when we ran the streets together and how we got to this point in our lives while waiting on the police. I was still trying to wrap my feelings around my pimp for a father being killed by his main whore who claimed to be his only love, my mother. I knew our lives were getting ready to take a challenging turn. Faith and I were singing Mary J. Blige's version of the song all night long, one of our favorites, when out of nowhere Faith asked in a very peculiar tone,
I wonder who the hell gonna bury Uncle Joe's old fool behind?
That was a very worthy question. I hadn't even thought about it until Faith mentioned it. I replied, but my answer was not compassionate. Who cares, Faye? The amount of alcohol I've consumed, along with the raw emotion of Smitty's death, had me unable to focus on the subject truly, nonetheless care. Nobody liked Smitty callous behind, so if anybody would bury his ass, it would probably be the state, or one of his modern-day whores. I was laughing, almost belligerent at this point. Faith had chimed in almost in celebration.
Girl. Yes. Uncle Joe was a foul-ass man. I'm just glad he's gone. The drama he kept bringing up every time we all got together had finally gone too far. Dad was not feeling that pimp mess on my wedding day. Hell, neither was Auntie Anne. Auntie was all revenge of the whores and shit. I love the way she handled herself tonight, cuz.
I agreed with Faith on all aspects, minus her ghetto outlook on my mom. We went back to singing and performing in the mirror like we used to. I couldn't help but think about the things that had led to this point. Faith and I continued to laugh and almost celebrate the death of my father while not an inch of my soul cared. The knock on the door startled me at first. I answered the door, knowing Faith wasn't going to budge. Good evening, officers. I spoke in my academic, university voice, attempting to level out my alcohol and prepare myself for what they were getting ready to ask. They greeted us with a nod while I stepped back to let the two officers in.
Let me start by getting your names and roles in this wedding. I assume you must be the bride, Faith, correct?
That was the short Caucasian officer speaking. He had a scrawny little build, seemed older than most officers, and had a voice like a tiny old man who had smoked all his life. His lungs were on the verge of giving out, and his demeanor was a bit cynical. Faith's reply was short and in a bit of an aggravated tone. You could tell she didn't want to be asked many questions.
Yes, that's me, and I don't want to have time for this mess. My wedding was ruined because of my evil Uncle Joe. I'm not in the mood for my day to turn into his day. I swear that man ruins everything. Can we hurry up and get on with this process, please? We haven't even eaten yet, and my daddy has spent a lot of money on this custom seafood menu. We better get to eat and at least finish this top-shelf open bar off.
Faith was nearly whining while I chimed in. Yes, officers, and I'm Edily Graham, Faith's cousin and maid of honor. Joe was my father. I made sure to say it in the most relieved but victimized tone. Joe wasn't invited. He just showed up, and since it was Faith's wedding, everyone agreed to let him stay as long as he didn't cause any problems, and as you can see, officers, that dream was short-lived. The tall black cop seemed intrigued. I offered him a seat on the small couch while Faith and I sat down next to him. We allowed him to continue asking a series of questions that led to my father's death. He took control of the questioning while Mr. Scrawny, the cop, took notes and combed over the room. Faith and I ensured we gave as many damaging details about Joe's character as possible, ensuring that Mama's actions tonight were justifiable and in self-defense. Despite everything that was going on and the questions being asked, I couldn't help but be fascinated by the officer questioning us. He was the typical tall, dark, and handsome. However, his intense voice almost sounded like a growl when he spoke. His hands and nails were clean, his teeth pearly white and perfectly polished. His hair was cut low, lining chiseled to a T, while his demeanor reeked of arrogance. He was well over 30 and more than an average detective on the force. I noticed there was no wedding ring but a platinum ring on his left pinky finger. His shoes were expensive, and although he was out of uniform, his attire was also hip yet professional and appeared expensive. When he entered the room, I could smell his rich and alluring cologne. That's what initially caught my attention, along with the barely noticeable day-date white gold and diamond Rolex on his right wrist and platinum bracelet on the other. I was in admiration and no longer focused on this interview.
So, you would say your father was callous and unnecessarily abusive, correct, Ms. Edily?
Asked Officer Scrawny. He was. Now, can we be done with this interview, officers? My cousin already feels like her day was ruined by my father. My family is beyond tired from all the years of stress he's caused, plus the bride is starving. Irritated that he'd snapped me out of an apparent trance, I stood to let the officers out, ending the questioning myself. The tall, handsome cop nodded in empathy, passed me his card, and in the sincerest tone advised,
Give me a call, Ms. Edily, if you have any questions or can think of anything else to help clarify the situation.
I took the card and let both officers out to continue to ask the other guests what they had known. An hour or so later, Smitty Triggerfinger Joe Graham was in someone's freezer. The officers were gone, and we were all sitting down enjoying top-notch seafood that Faith made sure to customize herself. She took us all back to the south and put a Creole touch on the menu. We had steamed and fried lobster, crab legs, jumbo shrimp cooked to order, fried alligator, tilapia, and sushi rolls, all served with fresh steamed or sautéed vegetables. Faith and Uncle Ross ensured it was on the menu for this occasion if it came from down under. Mama even made up a special batch of her famous seafood gumbo as the starter soup for guests. Topping the menu off, if you were allergic to seafood or weren't feeling it, they had ribeye steak, lamb pops, fried and fire-roasted chicken with baked, mashed, or twice-baked potatoes. I couldn't wait to have my time to shine and put out a spread like this. Faith even went so far as to serve stuffed rainbow trout. The aromatic essence of passion fruit filled the room as the trout was lit on fire as a performance, prepared especially for her groom. I was captivated. We laughed, danced, made a Soul Train line, and did some family karaoke. John B. sang again, with Issa singing Tamia's part, Tamirik Benet's Spend My Life. They sounded so harmonious that we all had to hold back those sappy tears. We bonded as a family while guests slowly began to leave. We polished off the open top shelf bar and, with all other naysayers and onlookers gone, the Ross family opened the last 2 bottles of Armand de Brignac champagne and toasted to new beginnings.
Are you ready to dive deeper into Edily's rabbit hole? Are you ready for part 2 of Chapter 1, Meet the Grahams, from this daunting and mind-boggling novel series, The Weight of Grahams? Are you ready to meet Malik and Brianna Smith? Edily's married ex-fiancé and newly discovered 2-year-old daughter? If that's the case, subscribe to my website at theweightofgrams.com right now and receive the full chapter download delivered instantly. Be sure to like this video, comment with your feedback, 2 cents, how you felt about it, what you think's going to happen next, whatever. Please comment and show your support. Share this episode with your people and be sure to subscribe to the channel to get the latest episodes that will be streamed right here weekly. Subscribers to the website will also get early release access to the latest chapters in their entirety. Until next time, peace, light, and spread love.